Yo, what is going on, guys? Tuft here, and today I want to talk to you guys about a question that I get all the time, and that is, how do I warm up when I begin playing CSGO? Now, some people like to warm up for a long period of time, like myself. I usually spend about an hour before every game or match that I have to play, whether it be like a CSGO, scrim, or pug, or like face it match or tournament, whatever. Doesn't matter. Like, usually before I end up playing a serious game, or if I'm really like, if I want to do good that night, or if I want to, play any like serious CS, then I'll usually spend anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour warming up. Now, some people don't spend nearly that much time or spend 0 to no time at all warming up, and I just want to talk to you guys about how I sort of view warming up, how I think you should properly do it, and sort of my method and the way I go about doing it. So the way I see warming up for CSGO is similar to how any sports team or whatever, like if you play a sport or something, or if you're athletic and you like to warm up before you go do something, whether it be an event or play a game, you always start with the basics, right? You start by loosening up everything and just getting ready to perform, and then you start dialing in and focusing and really perfecting and fine-tuning everything, right? So you start with stretching, warming around, maybe do a lap around the gym or whatever, stretch out. And then you start, focusing, you start passing around with your teammates, you start doing stuff like that, start fine-tuning all the skills that you're going to need to perform later on in the game. Similar to the way I see CS, I usually will start, here I'll run through my routine with you guys. Usually this takes me anywhere between 45 minutes and an hour, and what I'll do is I'll sort of just run you guys through chronologically what I do and for how much time I spend doing it. So this is pretty loose, pretty estimated, but before I even start doing anything, what I'll do is I'll just curl my wrists and like warm up my fingers, because my room is cold all the time. So I always have like the coldest hands, and like really, I don't know, it's just difficult for me to get warmed up and comfortable. So the first thing I'll do is make sure that like I'm all warmed up, like my wrists are nice and loose, my fingers are nice and ready to play and whatever. And then I'll just approach my setup, make sure everything's in the right position. I usually like my keyboard a certain way, like my monitor tilted a little bit. And just so first thing I do is make sure that my setup is comfortable, and then that I'm like in a good position to play. Like I'm ready to go, I'm settled in, I got my, I usually keep a bottle of water or something. I'm ready to play. I'm in the zone, I'm ready, I'm not gonna have any distractions or like things I'm gonna have to do or change when I'm playing. So I usually just make sure all that stuff is set up and good, and then I'll jump into CS. So once I boot up CS, usually the first thing that I'll do is spend anywhere between like 5 and 10 minutes in a surf or B-hop map. Either one, whichever one you like better. I don't really see a benefit to doing one over the other. Just anything that is going to get your movement, sort of loosened up, get you sort of back into the zone. Now, like I said earlier, how you want to start with like the really loose, broad things. If you think about it, b-hopping or surfing is the biggest, most exaggerated movement you're gonna have to do during the entire game. So like in like a pug or like a scrim or something, you're never gonna need to do any of the movement that you do when you're b-hopping or surfing on a map. So the way I see it is, if you start with those big exaggerated movements, what you're gonna do is eventually just loosen everything up, and then it's going to be easier for you down the road to sort of refine those things. So you're starting with the big loose movements and then moving to the more fine, precise things like aiming and stuff like that. So after I surf for about 4 or 5 minutes and I'm starting to feel warmed up and loose, and also surfing, what it does for me is it gets me back to using both my arm and wrist for big exaggerated turns or small little flicks onto ramps or onto whatever you're surfing on, whatever. Doesn't matter, that's totally individual. So after I spend about 5 to 10 minutes surfing, what I'll usually do after that is I'll hop onto the map Recoil Master. Now, Recoil Master is a community workshop map. I'll have all the maps in this video linked in the description, and I'll probably also do a video series where I go to each map and sort of describe what you guys can do in detail. And another thing that I want to just take a second to explain to you guys is there's a difference between my warm-up routine and my training routine. So what I'm saying is, like, the things that I do when I'm warming up just to get ready to play a game versus the things that I do to practice and get better, even though some of the things I do are on like the same maps or might be similar, are totally different, and I spend a lesser amount of time doing them when I'm warming up and stuff like that. So after I surf, I usually hop onto the map Recoil Master, and usually I just use the M4 and the AK, and I do about 50 full sprays, full 30 bullet sprays for each of them. and usually that's good enough for me to just sort of get you know, back in tune with the recoil patterns for each weapon. And then after that, usually I'll do like 10 or 12 bullet sprays with each one, because as a rifler, that's usually what I end up doing. So I just do a couple full sprays and then small bursts, just to get used to the rifles again and how they handle, and to help solidify the muscle memory pattern, like muscle memory for those spray patterns and stuff like that. Always helpful, just a good way to get warmed up and get back into the feel of using those guns. So that's usually what I do. After Recoil Master, I'll hop into the map Aimbots. Now this is a really useful map. I know a lot of people use it. I think it has like 2 million people subscribed to it or something ridiculous like that. But it is a really helpful map, and I do use it when I'm both training and warming up. So the first thing I'll do is I'll just hop on, grab like either the M4 or the AK, and then I'll just, you know, spin around the map, killing the bots, going for one-tap headshots, going for sprays, and then eventually I'll start putting on the AD movement command for the bots. So they'll start moving around and stuff like that. And then usually I'll just practice, you know, strafing and shooting and AD movement, and then like flick shots and stuff. So after I'm feeling comfortable with that, I will move on to the map training bot aim. Now there's several iterations of this map. You can use any single one. I don't see a problem or a difference between that, the version that I'm using in this video, or any of the other ones. And usually I just set it up on multiple targets, and so there's a couple bots. Sometimes I have them spawn like on the roof and things. And I usually just set it up on like a barrier, or have the blocks turn on or something, so you can just practice strafing around cover, using cover, shooting around cover, you know, encountering multiple enemies, like spraying down multiple people at once, you know, bursting or tapping from around or behind a cover, and just stuff like that. I usually just get warmed up and, you know, continue to dial in that 80-80 movement, getting my strafe shooting down and stuff like that. And I just spend a couple minutes on each of these maps, and after I'm feeling pretty comfortable, my aim is dialed in, I'll usually hop into a deathmatch. Now, some people like to prefer the like 20 or 30 person FFA deathmatches, and you know, those are great, and sometimes they can be really beneficial. I prefer actually to play in those compared to the Valve deathmatches, only because there's a lot more action and they can last for, you know, 30 minutes at a time or whatever, unlimited amount of time, so you can pretty much just play until you're ready to, you know, or if you play until you're feeling warmed up or whatever. With Valve deathmatches, there's obviously going to be less people, more teammates. They're going to be annoying. There's going to be people in there like spamming their mics and stuff like that. And it's also only like 10 minutes long, so it's usually not enough for me. Usually I'll just jump into a server, like community server, where there's FFA deathmatch. Anything from like 25 to 30 minutes is what I'll spend. Sometimes I'll just do it all with the AK, going for one-taps and sprays and bursts and stuff like that. And then other times I'll split it up. I'll do like 15 minutes with the AK in deathmatch and 15 minutes with the M4 in deathmatch. And then occasionally I'll throw some time in with the op, but I'm not really an opper, so I don't usually do much warming up with the op. I'm mostly just focusing on getting my aim on point, because as a rifler slash entry fragger, that's usually what I need to do. So after deathmatching for about 25 to 30 minutes, generally I'm pretty much ready to go. Sometimes I'll just spend some extra time like surfing again, just to get used to like movement and stuff. I mean, it's really up to you guys after that, but after about, you know, 10 to 15 minutes of surfing, another 10 to 15 minutes between all of the community maps I was talking about, Aimbots, Training Bot Aim, and Recoil Master. After 15 minutes of those and surfing, and then 30 minutes of deathmatch, usually by that point in time I'm feeling pretty warmed up. And yeah, that's pretty much my theory on how I warm up for CSGO. This sort of idea of starting with really broad, you know, loose, big movements, exaggerated things like surfing, and then dialing it into like spray control maps, which is like the loosest form of aiming that you're going to be doing, and then dialing it into precision aiming like on Training Bot Aim and Aimbots, and then obviously applying all that and getting ready and focusing in deathmatch and pretty much encountering you know, scenarios that are very similar to what you're going to be encountering in the game. So yeah, that's pretty much my view on warming up for CS, and also my routine, how I sort of go about doing it. If you guys have any other maps or things that you do when you warm up, make sure you comment down below. I'd love to hear it. And if you guys enjoyed this video, thought it was helpful, or are going to be doing this in the future as your warm-up routine, make sure you drop a like so I know you guys are using it. It's awesome. It lets me know that I'm you know, doing stuff that you guys enjoy. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you all in the next one. Peace.